I've been making videos for just over a year now, and going from a little action camera to shooting something with actual dynamic range, the biggest wall that I hit was color grading. Now, color grading can be extremely overwhelming, and at sometimes you just feel like you need a university degree just to understand lingo and terms just to get your footage to look like this. Yes, I know you can shoot in auto and call it a day, but there's just something about grading your footage that gives it that extra pop. So I just want to show you my processes that I take to get the footage to look the way they do. There are multiple great tutorials that'll teach you how to grade like a professional from start to finish, but I'm not going to get that in depth in this video. So I will leave a couple of links in the description to show which videos help me learn the basics of color grading. And I also just want to preface this video by saying I'm by no means a professional colorist, but I think I've been grading footage enough to understand the basics and know what look I want to go for in my footage. Before I touch a single slider, the first question that I ask myself is, what was I feeling at that moment when I filmed this? Color is a powerful tool in drawing out emotion in the viewer. And I'm sure you've watched a lot of movies that you felt a certain way just because of the color grading. There are endless Hollywood movies that have that iconic look to them, and movies such as The Matrix or Mad Max have that distinct look that make a viewer feel a certain type of way. A great example, and one of my personal favorites, is what they did with color throughout the Harry Potter series. Early on, they used warm tones and bright hues to convey magic of Hogwarts, and as the series progressed on, the storyline became a bit darker, and so did the color tones. Every film you've ever watched have used color in a certain way to make you feel a certain emotion, and you can do this exactly in your vlogs. This is a little cheat sheet that you can use, and these colors draw out certain emotions. Now, most of my footage is travel, so the feeling that I'm trying to draw out is a bit of nostalgia, fun, warmth, and something just cozy in general. And honestly, the simplest way to do that is by simply adding some warmth to your footage. I usually bump the temperature anywhere from 100 to 200, depending on the scene itself. It's not a lot, but it makes a small difference, and the more you do it, the more you'll know exactly how much you'd like to add, depending on your look. And another little tip to adding warmth to the footage is going to your white balance node and changing the gamma to linear, and then adjusting the warmth from there. This adds warmth to your clip in a much softer manner as opposed to going directly to the temperature. Now, this is probably one of the most favorite things I love doing in my footage, and that is adding saturation. I personally love a saturated look, and I think that's what makes your footage just pop just that little bit more. It just makes the footage feel so much more alive and vibrant and just more pleasing to look at. Now, the simplest way to adding saturation is just going to the saturation slider and just simply cranking that all the way up. But personally, I don't like doing that because it brightens the whole image and it can make the skin tones of the person in the image look a little bit unnatural. So here's a little trick that I use when I'm adding saturation to my footage. Simply go to your saturation node and simply select color space HSV. By selecting this stands for hue, saturation, and value. And then what you want to do is deselect channels 1 and 3, so that way it's just focusing on this saturation aspect. And then from there, simply just go to your primaries tab and just increase your gamma or gain. I personally like increasing gamma and gain, and the more you play around with it, the more you get to see what sort of look you like in your image. So as you can see, by doing it this way, the colors get denser and richer without actually adding brightness to the whole image itself. The next thing I do is masking. Now, this is one that I've only just started doing recently, and I honestly wish that I started doing it sooner. Now, masking is basically drawing the viewer's eye to what you want them to see in the image. It's been in Photoshop forever, and it works the same way in Davinci Resolve. What I personally like to do in my footage is to add a slight vignette to the image, which just draws the viewer's eyes to the center of the image itself. It's not a heavy vignette, just something slight enough for the viewer to draw their attention to the middle of the frame and just give that slight cinematic look. And depending on the composition of your actual shot, you can also use it in certain ways where you can darken some areas and lighten some areas to draw that attention to what you want the viewer to see. Now, this is the final layer that I add in my process, and it is the Dehancer plugin to get that film look. Now, Dehancer is a plugin that emulates real film stock on your digital footage. And before you start going and saying, oh yeah, Davinci already has that, it does, but Dehancer's film stock library is honestly unmatched in my opinion. I love the amount of customization that you can have in the plugin itself. Personally, when I get that film look, I love adding a little bit of grain, halation, and bloom. I don't like overdoing it too much, just subtle enough to give it that nice smooth look. Like I said before, there are hundreds of different film stocks that you can choose from. I personally love using the Kodak Portra 400 and 800. It just gives that warm, nostalgic feel to your footage. There are plenty of great tutorials of how to fully utilize the Dehancer plugin, but I'm just showing you the way that I like using it, just to get that subtle film look in my footage. So if you do want to give Dehancer a try, I do have an affiliate link in the description, and you will get 10% off on your next purchase. A couple of little quick tips that I like doing before I finish up the image. I like adding an S-curve to the final node of the whole grade. By doing this, it just adds a little bit more polish to the whole image itself and just ties it all together. Now, when it comes to grading, less is more. You want to remember that each layer that you're adjusting in the image is just a little bit of this and a little bit of that. So by the end of the whole image, you don't want it to be overwhelming and overdone. Make sure in each layer that you're doing, less is more. You're not trying to win a color science award, you're just trying to make it look good. So if you're second guessing yourself, you've probably gone too far, and just tone it down a little bit and that'll do the job. And lastly, ask yourself if the footage looks nice. If it looks nice, that's it, that's all done. Your grading is done. I feel like grading sometimes can become so overwhelming with all these tutorials out there, but at the end of the day, you're just trying to get your footage to look nice. So that's basically it. That's basically my whole process. Nothing too crazy, just a general framework, what I like using. So it's not about having the perfect grade, it's about taking some boring flat footage and making it feel a certain way. So when it comes to color grading, don't feel so overwhelmed. Take a couple of clips that you have and just start practicing on those, and I'm sure you will get there. And just remember, the more you do it, the more better you will become at it. And one thing to take away, Rome wasn't built in a day, so you're gonna have to practice this. Like anything in life, put the reps in and you'll get there. So hopefully you can take any of the steps that I use in my process and apply it to the way that you grade your footage. So until then, see you in the next one.